I woke up to sunlight pressing against my eyelids and a quiet panic humming in my chest. My head throbbed, my mouth felt like cotton, and there was a voice, calm, gentle, saying something that made my heart stop. "You don't remember last night?" she asked softly. "I got you into bed." I sat up too fast and blurted the first thing my fear could find. "Where are my clothes then?" That question, awkward and clumsy, would change how I understood kindness forever. Before we go any further, if you enjoy real-life inspired stories that remind us how small moments can carry big meaning, take a second to subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment. It really helps the channel grow and lets us keep sharing stories like this here on your channel name. Now let me tell you what actually happened that night. The night before had started like any other Friday in late summer. A few neighbors gathered for a casual backyard get-together, nothing fancy, just burgers on a grill, music playing from a speaker, and the familiar comfort of people who waved when they passed your house but didn't know your middle name. I had just moved to the area a few months earlier. New town, new job, and not many friends yet. I went mostly because I didn't want another quiet night alone with takeout and old TV shows. I told myself I'd have one drink, make polite conversation, and head home early. But kindness has a way of pulling you in when you least expect it. She was there, helping someone carry a cooler, laughing easily, making everyone feel like they belonged. When she talked to me, she listened, really listened. Not the kind where someone waits for their turn to speak, but the kind where you feel seen. That alone loosened something inside me. One drink turned into two. Stories flowed. Laughter came easier. I remember the sky turning a deeper blue and the music slowing down. After that, things get fuzzy. Not blacked out, just blurred around the edges. What I don't remember is how I ended up back at my place. That's why when I woke up in my own bed the next morning wearing an oversized t-shirt I didn't recognize, my brain went straight to panic. I scanned the room. My wallet was on the dresser. My phone was charging. My shoes were lined up by the door like someone had taken the time to place them neatly. She stood in the doorway holding a mug. "Coffee," she said. "I wasn't sure how you take it." I stared at her, confused and embarrassed. "You said you got me into bed," I muttered. "But where are my clothes?" She smiled, not offended, not amused in a mean way. Just patient. "You threw up on them," she said gently. "I washed what I could and put the rest in the dryer. You were half asleep and kept apologizing." The tension in my chest loosened, replaced by a deep, aching shame. I felt exposed, not physically, but emotionally. This woman barely knew me, and she had seen me at my weakest. "I'm sorry," I said. "This isn't how I usually am." She handed me the coffee and shook her head. "You don't have to explain. You didn't do anything wrong." Then she told me the rest. When I started swaying near the fire pit, she noticed. When I insisted I was fine, she didn't argue, but she stayed close. When I finally admitted I felt sick, she walked me home slowly, making sure I didn't stumble. When I got nauseous, she held my hair back like it was the most natural thing in the world. She didn't have to do any of that. She could have called someone else. She could have shrugged and said it wasn't her problem. Instead, she chose kindness. "I stayed on the couch," she added quickly, like she wanted to clear the air. "You passed out as soon as your head hit the pillow." Relief washed over me, followed by something deeper, gratitude, and a quiet realization that trust can be built in moments you never plan for. We sat at the small kitchen table, sipping coffee as the morning woke up around us. Sunlight spilled across the floor. The world felt softer than it had the day before. I asked her why she stayed. She thought for a moment. "A few years ago," she said, "I was the one who needed help. I was in a bad place. Someone showed me kindness when they didn't have to. It stuck with me. I promised myself I'd do the same when I could." That answer stayed with me. After she left, I found my clothes folded neatly in a basket. There was a note on top, just 3 words, "Drink water today." It would have been easy to laugh the whole thing off, to tell it as a funny story about drinking too much and waking up confused, but that's not what it was. Not really. It was a reminder that kindness isn't always grand gestures or dramatic speeches. Sometimes it's staying when it would be easier to leave. Sometimes it's making sure someone gets home safe. Sometimes it's folding clothes for a person who can't do it themselves in that moment. In the days that followed, I found myself noticing kindness everywhere. The coworker who brought an extra lunch, the stranger who held the door a little longer, the neighbor who waved and actually meant it. I also noticed the moments when I had the chance to be kind. A week later, I saw a guy at the grocery store struggling to carry bags to his car. Without thinking, I offered to help. He looked surprised, then relieved. As we loaded the trunk, he told me he'd just moved to town. I smiled, understanding more than I said. I ran into her again at another neighborhood gathering. This time, we laughed about the awkwardness of that morning. There was no pressure, no expectation, just two people who shared a moment of humanity. Kindness doesn't always lead to romance. Sometimes it just leads to respect. Sometimes it leads to growth. And sometimes it simply restores your faith in people. What stayed with me most wasn't the embarrassment or the confusion. It was the feeling of being cared for without judgment, of being helped without being made to feel small. In a world that often feels rushed and divided, that kind of kindness is powerful. We all have nights when we're not our best selves. We all have mornings when we wake up unsure, vulnerable, and a little afraid. What matters is how we treat each other in those moments. That day taught me that kindness can be quiet, it can be practical, it can look like coffee in a mug and clothes folded with care, and it can change someone in ways you never see. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether a small act matters, remember this story. Remember that somewhere down the line, someone might wake up feeling a little less alone because you chose to be kind. That's how kindness works. It lingers, it ripples, it stays, and if we let it, it makes us better. One ordinary, extraordinary moment at a time.